Abigail Hartwell pressed the folded note into the servant boy's palm and whispered the wrong name. 8 reckless words. 1 terrible mistake. By the time she saw Nathaniel Whitmore, the widower who had buried 2 wives and feared no scandal in Virginia, unfold her paper across the crowded room, her whole life was already sliding off the edge of the world. She'd written it for Samuel, the lawyer, the boy with the easy smile, not the man with the iron eyes. Nathaniel looked up. He found her face across the candlelight, and Abigail Hartwell knew right then she was ruined. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and stay with me till the very last word of this story, and tell me down in the comments what city you're listening from tonight, because I want to see just how far Abigail's story has traveled across this country of ours. The Whitmore Summer Assembly was the kind of gathering where every glance carried a price tag, and every laugh was a weapon dressed in silk. Abigail Hartwell had been counting candles for nearly an hour. "Stand straighter, Abby," her father whispered beside her. "You look like a girl who's already given up." "Maybe I have." "Don't say that. Not here. Not tonight." "Father, no one in this room has spoken to me except Mrs. Vale, and she only spoke to ask why I wore the same dress I wore at Easter." Elias Hartwell drew in the long, tired breath of a man who had run out of money and pride at the same time. "Then make them speak to you, daughter." "How?" "By being someone they cannot ignore." She nearly laughed. "Father, that has never been a choice given to women like me." "It has if you take it." "Do you hear yourself? You sound like one of your old books." "Abby, I am sorry. I am sorry, I did not mean—" "Hush. Don't make a face. Mrs. Vale is watching." "She is always watching." "Then give her nothing." Across the room, Samuel Reed stood near the punch table laughing at something a banker's wife had said. He had loosened his collar in the July heat, and for 1 second he looked up and caught Abigail's eyes through the crowd. He smiled. It was a small smile, polite, practiced. The kind a young lawyer gives to every woman in a room because none of them are dangerous to him. But Abigail had known Samuel since she was 16. She had sat across from him in her father's study 3 summers running, listening to him argue about land law and Jefferson and the right of any free citizen to speak the truth out loud. She had believed him. She had believed him the way a hungry woman believes a man who promises bread. "Abby." Clara Bell appeared at her elbow with 2 glasses of lemon water. "You are staring." "I am not staring." "You are. Drink this. He is not going to walk over here." "I was not waiting for him to walk over." "You were." "Clara." "Abby, listen to me." Clara lowered her voice until it was almost lost beneath the music. "Samuel Reed has been promised to Eliza Granger since April. Did you know that—" Abigail stopped breathing. "Since April. Since April. The whole town has known for a month." "Then why hasn't he—" "Because he likes the way you look at him, Abby. That is all. Men like Samuel keep women like us standing in the corner of the room because we make them feel taller." "That is a cruel thing to say." "It is a true thing to say. The two are not the same, but they are close enough tonight." Abigail turned her face toward the dark window so Clara would not see what was happening in it. Her hand was shaking around the lemon glass. "Clara, I am here. Has he been laughing at me all this time?" "No, Abby, not laughing. Worse than that." "What is worse?" "He has not been thinking about you at all." Across the room, Nathaniel Whitmore stood near the empty fireplace, even though no fire burned in it on a July night. He was a broad-shouldered man, dressed plainly in dark gray. He held a glass, but had not drunk from it. He was listening to something Thomas Granger was saying, and his face did not move at all. Granger leaned in closer. "Mr. Whitmore, I am telling you the Hartwell schoolhouse sits on land that ought to be developed. The old man is in debt up to his ears. A reasonable offer." "Mr. Granger." Nathaniel's voice was quiet, but it cut through the room the way a blade cuts through wool. "I do not buy a man's home from him while he is standing in the same town as me. It is only business. It is only theft if the man cannot say no." Granger gave a short laugh that did not reach his eyes. You are too soft, Whitmore. The county will eat you alive one day. It has tried. It still hasn't. Abigail watched him for a moment longer than was wise. Everyone in Virginia knew Nathaniel Whitmore. He had buried his first wife 5 years ago in childbed. He had buried his second wife 2 years after that of fever. He had buried his only son the same week. He had come back from the war with a scar across the left side of his jaw and the kind of silence that made other men nervous the moment he stepped into a room. He was 38 years old. He had not danced once at any assembly in 3 years. Abby. Clara nudged her. You are staring at the wrong man now. I am not staring at him. You are. And he is not the kind of man a woman stares at without consequence. Clara, I am tired. Then come sit. I am tired of being polite. Clara stopped walking. Abby, what does that mean? It means I have been standing in corners since I was 19 years old. It means I have made myself small at every supper and every service and every gathering in this county, and not once has it bought me a kind word that was not a piece of charity. I have been agreeable, Clara. I have been useful. And tonight, Samuel Reed smiled at me from across a room, and I realized he has been smiling at me that same way for 4 years, and it has never meant a single thing. Abby, I am 24. Do you know what that is in this town? Yes. Say it. Abby, please. Say it, Clara. It is the age a woman becomes invisible. It is the age a woman becomes furniture, and I will not be furniture for one more night. Then what are you going to do? I am going to write him a note. Abby, one note. One honest sentence. I want to know if there has ever been one true thing between Samuel and me, or if I have built a whole house in my head out of a polite man's polite smile. Abby, you cannot. I can. If anyone sees, no one will see. I will fold it. I will give it to a servant. Samuel will read it, and he will either come to find me, or he will not, and either way I will know. And if the wrong eyes... Clara, please. Clara stared at her. Abby, I have known you since we were 10 years old. You do not do reckless things. I have done careful things for 24 years, and I have nothing to show for them but a father in debt and a place against this wall. Abby, I am asking you, help me or stand aside. Clara closed her eyes for a long second. When she opened them, they were wet. I will stand aside, but not far. If anything goes wrong, I am right behind you. Abigail walked into the side parlor, where the writing desk was kept stocked for the house's use. Paper, pen, sealing wax. Her hand trembled when she picked up the pen, and then it stopped trembling the way a hand stops trembling when it has finally decided. She wrote 8 words. Meet me where no one dares to look. She did not sign it. She folded the paper twice. She walked back into the assembly room, found a young servant boy by the door, and pressed the note into his hand. Deliver this, she said, to the gentleman in the dark coat by the fireplace, discreetly. The boy bowed. Yes, ma'am. Abigail turned away and walked to the far end of the room, her heart so loud she could feel it in her teeth. She waited. She waited for Samuel to look up, to find her, to open the note, to feel something cross his face. The boy crossed the room. The boy did not stop at the punch table. The boy did not stop at Samuel Reed. The boy walked straight past him, to the fireplace, to Nathaniel Whitmore. Abigail's hand closed on the windowsill behind her so hard her knuckles went white. Oh, dear God. Clara was at her side in an instant. What is it? Clara. Abby, what? He gave it to the wrong man. What? He gave it to the wrong... She could not say it twice. By the fireplace. Look. Look. Clara looked. Nathaniel Whitmore had taken the folded paper from the servant boy and was unfolding it, the slow, careful way a man opens a letter from a stranger who has made him a serious offer. He read it. He did not move. He read it again. Then he lifted his head, and his eyes went directly across the room, past every other woman, past every laughing wife, past every dancing girl, and landed on Abigail Hartwell. He did not look surprised. He did not look angry. He looked at her the way a man looks at a door he has been waiting at for a long time. Abby. Clara's voice had gone very quiet. Abby, what did you write? Clara. Abby, what exactly did you write? I wrote. Clara. I wrote, meet me where no one dares to look. Oh no. I wrote it for Samuel. Oh, Abby, no. What does that man think of me right now? I do not know, Abby. Clara, what does he think of me? I do not know. Across the room, Nathaniel Whitmore folded the paper once. Then again, he slipped it into the inside pocket of his coat. He did not look away from her. He gave her the smallest nod. It was not a nod of approval. It was not a nod of accusation. It was the nod of a man who had received a piece of information and intended to do something about it. I have to go home, Abigail whispered. Abby, wait. I have to go home right now. Your father is across the room. Tell him I am unwell. Tell him the heat. Tell him I fainted. Tell him anything. Abby, listen. Clara, please. Clara nodded once. Abigail walked out of the assembly room without looking at any soul. She walked down the front steps of the Whitmore Manor, as if her feet did not belong to her. She walked past the carriages and into the warm Virginia night, and did not stop walking until she was on the dirt road that led back to her father's house 1.25 miles away. She walked that road in her thin slippers and her one good dress, and the summer crickets sang around her like they did not know the world had just tilted off its axis. She did not cry. She was past crying. She walked into her father's house, climbed the narrow back stairs, and shut her bedroom door. She sat on the edge of her bed in the dark. He has it, she whispered to no one. Nathaniel Whitmore has my note. She thought about every story she had ever heard about that man. The widower, the soldier, the man who had stripped Henry Cole of his lumber contracts in one afternoon because Cole had cheated a tenant out of a winter's wages. The man who had shot a horse thief through the shoulder and then paid the doctor to save his life so he could stand trial honest. He will tell, she whispered. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't right. Nathaniel Whitmore did not gossip. Nathaniel Whitmore did not need to gossip. Nathaniel Whitmore did things directly. Then what is he going to do? The question sat in her chest like a stone. The town clock down at the courthouse struck 11. Then it struck 12. She did not undress. She did not sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed in her good dress with her shoes still on, and she listened to the sound of her own breathing and the sound of her father coming home an hour later, and her father's slow, tired footsteps as he climbed the stairs and stopped outside her door. Abby? I am asleep, Father. Clara said you were unwell. I am only tired. Are you certain? I am certain. Good night, Father. A long silence. Good night, daughter. His footsteps moved away. She did not move. At midnight, the knock came. Not at the front door, at the kitchen door. 3 quiet, even knocks. The knocks of a man who did not want the household woken. Abigail rose. She walked down the back stairs in the dark. She crossed the kitchen on slippered feet. She put her hand on the latch. She closed her eyes. She opened the door. Nathaniel Whitmore stood on the kitchen step, hat in his hand, the warm summer night heavy behind him. Miss Hartwell. She could not speak. Miss Hartwell, I will not keep you. May I have 1 moment, ma'am? Mr. Whitmore. 1 moment. My father. Will not hear us. I came on foot. The horse is 1/2 mile back at the river crossing. No soul in this town knows I am here. Why are you here? To return what is yours. You should not have come. No, ma'am, I should not have. Then why? He looked at her. He did not look angry, and he did not look amused, and he did not look like a man enjoying private knowledge over a woman who had ruined herself. He looked tired. Miss Hartwell, I believe you sent me a truth by accident. She opened her mouth. She closed it. She tried again. Mr. Whitmore, the note was not meant for you. I know it wasn't. You know. Of course I know. I am not a foolish man, ma'am. I have seen Samuel Reed look at you 4 times this year. I have seen you look at him longer. Then why am I standing here? Yes. Because I read those 8 words, Miss Hartwell, and they were the first honest thing spoken in that room all evening. She stepped back from the door. You must not say that to me. It is true. Mr. Whitmore, you must not stand at my kitchen door at midnight saying true things to me. You must give me the note back and you must go. He drew the folded paper from inside his coat. He did not hand it to her yet. Miss Hartwell, I will return this, but I will say one thing first. Sir, please. Whoever you intended to read these words does not deserve them, and I am sorry for you that you wrote them to him. Her eyes filled. She would not let them fall. You do not know me, Mr. Whitmore? No, ma'am, I do not. But I have stood in too many rooms in this county where polite people speak around polite people for 30 years. And tonight, a woman in a wallflowers corner picked up a pen and wrote something only a free woman writes. That is not nothing. It is ruin. It is only ruin if I make it so, and I will not. Why what, ma'am? Why will you not? He was quiet a long second. Because, Miss Hartwell, I have ruined men in this county who deserved it. I will not begin tonight by ruining a woman who only wished for the length of one folded paper to be heard. He held the note out to her. She took it. His hand was warm. It was the warmth she would remember most afterward. Not his face, not his words, but the warmth of his hand for the half-second their fingers touched as the paper passed between them. Mr. Whitmore. Ma'am? Why do I believe you? He almost smiled. Because I am tired, ma'am, and tired men rarely lie. What will you do now? Nothing you do not ask me to do. And if I ask you to do nothing, then I will do nothing. Miss Hartwell, I will go home tonight, and tomorrow morning. I will ride into town, as I always do, and I will tip my hat to your father at the post office, and you will never have any reason to fear that you wrote 8 words on a folded paper in the summer of 1816. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. He put his hat back on his head. Good night, Miss Hartwell. Good night, sir. He stepped down off the kitchen step. He was half swallowed by the dark before she found her voice again. Mr. Whitmore? He stopped. Yes, ma'am. You said the note was the first honest thing spoken in that room all evening. I did. Did you mean that? He turned around fully. The summer moonlight caught the scar along the left side of his jaw. Miss Hartwell, I have not said an untrue word to a woman since I buried my second wife. I do not intend to start with you. And then he was gone down the kitchen path, swallowed by the warm Virginia night. Abigail Hartwell stood barefoot in the doorway of her father's empty kitchen, with 8 reckless words folded in her shaking hand, and the absolute terrible certainty that her old life had just ended, and some other life, some life she could not yet see the shape of, had just walked away from her door, wearing a dark gray coat, and a quiet voice, and a scar she had not been brave enough to look at directly. She closed the door. She locked it. She slid down the wood until she was sitting on the kitchen floor in her one good dress. And then finally, Abigail Hartwell put her face in her hands and cried. The next morning, Abigail came downstairs in the same dress she had worn to bed. She had not slept. She had not changed. She had folded the note inside the cover of her mother's old prayer book and pushed the prayer book under her mattress, and she had sat at her window, watching the sun come up over the tobacco fields, like a woman expecting the world to send a sheriff. Her father was at the kitchen table with a cup of weak coffee. Abby. Good morning, Father. Sit down. I can stand. Sit down, Abby. She sat. You did not faint last night. Father. I asked Clara, and Clara is the worst liar in the county, and her face told me you did not faint. Now what happened? Nothing happened. Abigail Margaret Hartwell. Father, please. You walked a mile and a quarter home alone in the dark in your slippers. Nothing did not do that. I was tired. You are lying to me. Father, you are lying to me in my own kitchen, and I know you are lying because your mother used to put her hand on the back of her neck the same way when she was lying, and she only ever lied to me about one thing in 26 years of marriage, and that thing was money. Abigail took her hand off the back of her neck. It was not about money. Then about what? About me. He looked at her a long second. Abby, are you in trouble? No, Father. Are you certain? I am certain. Abby, look at me. She looked at him. If a man has done something to you, no, Father. If any man in that house last night, no, Father, nothing of that kind. I swear it on Mother's prayer book. He let out a breath he had been holding since the moment she walked into the kitchen. Then what? I made a small foolish thing into a large foolish thing in my own head. That is all. I will tell you when I can tell you. I am asking you to wait. Abby. Please, Father. He held her gaze a long moment. I will wait. But not long. This house cannot afford a daughter with secrets right now. What does that mean? It means nothing you need to carry today. Father. Eat your bread, Abby. Father, what does it mean? It means eat your bread. She ate her bread. By 8 o'clock, Clara was at the kitchen door. Abby. Clara. Tell me he did not come here. Clara. Tell me, Abby. Tell me he did not come to your door. He came to the kitchen step. Oh, Lord. He gave back the note. He left. He left. He left Clara. What did he say? That the note was an honest thing, that he would not ruin me, that he would tip his hat to my father at the post office, and we would go on as before. And you believed him? I believed him. Abby. What? Men do not knock on a woman's kitchen door at midnight to give her back a piece of paper. He did. They do not. Clara, he did. He was in and out in 5 minutes. He did not step inside the house. That is somehow worse. How is that worse? Because it means he was not there for what other men would have been there for. It means he was there for you. Abigail set down her cup. Clara, do not say that. I am saying it. Do not. Abby, listen to me. I know that man's reputation. I know he buried 2 wives. I know he came back from the war with a face that does not move. I have heard my father say 100 times that Nathaniel Whitmore is the most dangerous quiet man in the county. And the most dangerous quiet man in the county walked a horse through the dark to your kitchen door and stood in his hat at midnight to tell you your 8 words were honest. Clara, do you understand what that is? I understand it is something. It is more than something, Abby. And you cannot pretend it isn't. I have to pretend. Why? Because Samuel. Oh, Abby, stop. Clara. Samuel Reed is engaged to Eliza Granger. He has been engaged for 4 months. He is going to marry the daughter of the banker who is trying to take your father's house. Do you hear me? I hear you. Then say the rest. What rest? Say the rest, Abby. There is no rest, Clara. Say it. Clara, what? Say that you are done sending notes to Samuel Reed. A long silence. I am done sending notes to Samuel Reed. Good. That does not mean I am sending notes to anyone else. I did not say it did. Clara. I did not, Abby. Hush. By 11 o'clock, she was at the market. She had not wanted to go. Her father had asked her to fetch sugar and salt, and she could not refuse him without telling him why, and she could not tell him why, and so she went. She was at Mr. Cobb's stall counting coppers into her palm when she felt the air change behind her. Miss Hartwell. She did not turn around. Mr. Whitmore. Ma'am. You are at the market. I am at the market most Saturdays. I have not seen you at the market most Saturdays. You have not been looking, ma'am. She closed her hand around the coppers. Mr. Whitmore, My friend Clara is 20 paces behind me and watching this conversation with the full attention of a woman writing it down for the rest of her life. Then I will tip my hat to you, Miss Hartwell, and I will pass on, and Clara will not have anything to write down. Thank you. He tipped his hat. He did not move. Mr. Whitmore? Yes, ma'am. You said you would pass on. I did say that. Then you must pass on. I am passing, ma'am. My feet are slow today. Mr. Whitmore? Yes, Miss Hartwell. Are you mocking me? No, ma'am. I have not mocked a woman since I was 19 years old, and the woman in question slapped me hard enough that I learned the lesson the first time. Then what are you doing? I am buying salt, Miss Hartwell, the same as you. You buy your own salt. I do. A man with 3,000 acres buys his own salt. A man with 3,000 acres buys his own salt, because if he sends a steward, the steward charges him double and tells him the price went up. She almost smiled. She did not let it reach her face. Good morning, Mr. Whitmore. Good morning, Miss Hartwell. He moved on. He did not look back at her. He bought his salt from Mr. Cobb 3 customers later, paid in exact coin, and walked out into the summer heat. Clara was at her elbow before he was halfway to the door. Abby. Don't. Abby? Clara, I am asking you, do not. He spoke to you in front of half the town. He tipped his hat. He bought salt. He stood there for 2 minutes. It was 30 seconds. It was 2 minutes, Abby. Clara, please. Mrs. Vale was watching from the corn stall. Abigail's stomach turned. How much did she see? All of it. Clara. All of it, Abby. By Sunday morning, the gossip had started. It started small the way fires do. A whisper behind a hymn book. A glance over a shoulder during the second reading. A pause when Abigail walked past the front pew that lasted half a beat too long. After service, Mrs. Prudence Vale found her in the churchyard. Miss Hartwell. Mrs. Vale. How well you look this morning. Thank you. It is a brave color for a girl in your circumstances. The blue. It was my mother's. Was it? How thrifty of you to keep using it. Thrift is not a sin, Mrs. Vale. No, dear, of course not. Sin is something else entirely, isn't it? Abigail's hand closed on her prayer book. Mrs. Vale, was there something you wished to say to me? Only that I noticed you had a long conversation with Mr. Whitmore at the market yesterday. It was 30 seconds. Was it? It was. Mr. Cobb said it was longer. Mr. Cobb counts seconds the way he counts apples, Mrs. Vale. Always too short of the truth. A small, sharp silence. Miss Hartwell, you have grown a tongue this summer. I have always had a tongue, Mrs. Vale. I have only recently begun to use it. Take care it does not use you. I will take that warning under advisement. Do. Mrs. Vale walked away. Clara was at her arm before Abigail could breathe. Abby, Abby. I know. What have you done? I know Clara. You cannot speak to Prudence Vale like that. She runs the prayer circle. She runs the women's auxiliary. She runs the town. She does not run me. Abby, she will eat you. Then she will choke. Abby. Clara. I have been polite to that woman since I was 16 years old, and she has called my mother thrifty at her own funeral. I am done being polite. You are going to get hurt. I am already hurt, Clara. I have been hurt for years, and no one has noticed because I was hurt quietly. I am going to be hurt loudly now, and we will see if anyone hears it. Abby? Yes. I love you very much. I love you very much, Clara. And I am very afraid for you. I know. That afternoon, Abigail came home and found her father at the kitchen table with a letter open in his hand and his face the color of old paper. Father. He folded the letter. It is nothing, Abby. It is not nothing. It is a small matter. Father, you look like a man who has just heard his own death sentence read aloud. I look tired. You look afraid. Abigail. Father, who is the letter from? It is none. Father, who? He closed his eyes. Thomas Granger. What does it say? It says nothing you need to know today. Father, I am 24. You have been hiding letters from Thomas Granger from me since I was 19. I am asking you to stop. Abby. Read it. No? Then I will. She reached across the table. He put his hand on the letter. His hand was shaking. Father? He is calling the loan. The words went through her like a knife pulled slowly. All of it. All of it, Abby. How much? More than we have. Father, how much? $614. 614. We do not have $614. I know we do not. We do not have $60. I know, Abby. Father. I know. How long do we have? 30 days. 30 days for $614. Yes. Then he gets the house. Then he gets the house, and the schoolhouse, and the field behind the schoolhouse, and the orchard your mother planted. Father. Abby, I have written to every cousin we have. I have written to your uncle in Norfolk. I have written to the bank in Richmond. I have written to a man who said in 1809 that he would help me if I ever needed it. None of them have written back, and the ones who have written back no. Father. I am sorry, Abby. Why are you telling me now? Because you are right. I have been hiding letters since you were 19, and I am tired, and I am out of letters to hide. She sat down across from him. Father, why is Granger doing this now? Because he can. He has held this loan for 12 years. He has never called it. He has never had reason to. And he has reason now. He has reason now. What reason? Abby. Father, what reason? He wants the land for a development. He has wanted it for 2 years. He has been waiting for the right month. And the right month is this month. The right month is this month. Why? Abby. Why, Father? He looked up at her with the tired, terrible eyes of a man who had been waiting all morning for a question he did not want to answer. Because his daughter Eliza is engaged to Samuel Reed, and Samuel Reed is the lawyer who would have argued our case if we ever fought back. And Samuel Reed has just signed on as Granger's son-in-law, and Samuel Reed will not stand against his future father-in-law for the sake of a schoolmaster's family. The kitchen was so quiet, she could hear the clock in the parlor. Father? Yes, Abby. Did you know? Did I know what? Did you know about the engagement? For 4 months, daughter. And you did not tell me? No. Why? Because I saw the way you looked at that boy, and I could not bear to be the man who took the last hopeful thing out of your hands. Father, I am sorry, Abby. Father, I need to be alone. Abby, please. She walked out of this kitchen. She walked down the back path past the orchard her mother had planted. She walked until she was at the rail fence at the end of the property, and she put her hands on the top rail, and she did not cry. She stood there long enough that she did not hear the horse come up the lane. Miss Hartwell. She did not turn. Mr. Whitmore, you cannot be here. I am not here long. You cannot be here at all. Miss Hartwell, your father's loan was called this morning. She turned. How do you know that? Because Thomas Granger sat at the table next to mine at the Eagle Tavern at noon and told 3 other men about it over chicken and beer. He told 3 men. He told the room, Miss Hartwell. He was proud of it. Oh, God. I am sorry, ma'am. Mr. Whitmore, I cannot stand here with you. I know. I came to say one thing. Sir, please. One thing, Miss Hartwell, and then I am gone. What? The loan can be fought. It cannot. It can. Mr. Whitmore, my father has had 12 years to fight that loan, and he has not. And we do not have a lawyer, and the only lawyer in this town who would have taken our case has just become Granger's son-in-law. There are lawyers outside of this town. We cannot afford a lawyer outside of this town. You can afford the one I am sending you. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. Are you offering to pay for a lawyer for my father? No, ma'am. I am offering to send a man I know in Richmond who owes me a debt from 1812. He will look at the papers. He will tell you what Granger has done wrong. He has done something wrong, Miss Hartwell. Men like Granger always do. Mr. Whitmore, I cannot accept charity from you. I am not offering charity. You are offering a lawyer. I am offering a debt called in. The debt is mine. The man owes me. I am sending him to read papers I cannot read myself. That is not charity. That is housekeeping. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. Why are you doing this? He was quiet for a long second. The summer wind moved through the orchard behind her, carrying the smell of green apples. Miss Hartwell, I am 38 years old. I have buried 2 wives and a son. I have made a great deal of money, and I have killed men in a war that was supposed to be the last one. And I have come home to a county where Thomas Granger calls in loans on schoolmasters because he can. I have stood by while it has happened to other families. I have told myself it was not my business. I am tired of telling myself that. That is not about me. No, ma'am, that part is not. What part is? The part where I rode out here at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon when I had 4 other things to do. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. I cannot. You can. You only have to say send the lawyer. And then what? And then nothing. The lawyer reads. The lawyer writes. The lawyer tells your father what to file. Your father files it. I do not appear in any document. I do not stand in any courtroom. I am not in this. You will not owe me anything, ma'am, because I will not have given you anything that can be owed. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell, say send the lawyer. I cannot accept this without speaking to my father. Speak to him then. I will. Good. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. Why are you not asking for anything? He almost smiled. Because, Miss Hartwell, I have learned that the men in this county who ask for something in exchange for help are not helping. They are buying, and I am not buying anything from you. Not your time, not your gratitude, not your hand, not one thing. Then what are you doing? I am standing where the wolves can see I am watching. She did not have an answer for that. He tipped his hat. Good afternoon, Miss Hartwell. Mr. Whitmore? Yes, ma'am. Send the lawyer. He nodded once. He did not smile. He turned his horse and rode back up the lane the way he had come. She stood at the rail fence for a long time. She walked back to the house, and she found her father still at the kitchen table, and she sat down across from him. Father, Abby, a lawyer is coming from Richmond. He looked up. Abby, he is coming to read the loan papers. Abby, who is paying for this lawyer. No one is paying for this lawyer. He is paying off an old debt to someone he owes. Owes who? It does not matter, Father. Abby owes who? Nathaniel Whitmore. Her father set down his cup very carefully. Abby. Yes, Father. What is happening? I do not know. You do not know. I do not know yet, Father. I am asking you to trust me until I do. Abby, that man, has not done anything dishonorable, Father. I swear it. He has not touched my hand. He has not asked for my time. He came to this fence today on horseback because he heard at the Eagle Tavern that Granger called your loan, and he offered to send a lawyer he knows in Richmond, and he asked for nothing in return. Men do not ask for nothing in return. That is what I said. And what did he say? He said he was tired of telling himself it was not his business. Her father was silent a long time. Abby. Yes. Did you write that man a letter? She closed her eyes. Father. Abby. Did you write that man a letter? Not on purpose, Father. What does that mean? It means I wrote a letter on a folded paper at the assembly Friday night, and I gave it to a servant boy, and the servant boy gave it to Nathaniel Whitmore by mistake, and Nathaniel Whitmore came to our kitchen door at midnight, and gave it back to me, and went home. Her father did not move for a full minute. Abby. Yes, Father. Who was the letter for? Samuel Reed. Oh, daughter. I know. Oh, Abby. I know, Father. What did the letter say? It said, "Meet me where no one dares to look." He put his face in his hands. Father, I did not know about the engagement. I did not know what Samuel was. I had been polite for so long, Father and I. Abby. Father. Abby, look at me. She looked at him. Did Whitmore mock you? No, Father. Did Whitmore use the letter against you? No, Father. Did Whitmore tell another soul? He has not, Father. The town does not know. Mrs. Vale guesses. She does not know. Abby. Yes. What did Whitmore say to you? At the kitchen door, that night. She swallowed. He said it was the first honest thing spoken in that room all evening. Her father lowered his hands. He said that. He said that. To you. To me, Father. At our kitchen door. At our kitchen door. A very long silence. Abby. Yes, Father. That is not a small thing. I know, Father. You understand what that is. I am beginning to, Father. And what are you going to do about it? I do not know yet. Abby. Father, I do not know yet. I am asking you to wait with me. I am asking you to let me find out who I am when I am not standing against a wall counting candles. He looked at her for a long moment. Abby. Yes. Send the lawyer. He is already coming. Then send word that I will see him. Yes, Father. And Abby. Yes. That man Whitmore, if he comes to this house again. Yes, Father. Bring him in through the front door. She felt something break inside her chest quietly, like a piece of ice giving way in a spring creek. Yes, Father. That night Samuel Reed came to the front door. He had not come to the front door of the Hartwell house in 2 years. Abigail's father answered. He did not invite Samuel in. He stood in the doorway with his hand on the frame. Mr. Reed. Sir, I came to see Abigail. Did you? Yes, sir. On what subject? On a personal subject, sir. Mr. Reed, you are engaged to Eliza Granger. Sir. You are engaged to the daughter of the man who called my loan this morning. Sir, Mr. Reed, I have known you since you were a boy of 14 at this kitchen table eating my bread. I have respected you. I have been proud in a small way that you came to my house. I am asking you now as a man who has known you that long to leave this porch. Sir, please, one word with Abigail. Abigail came down the hall. Father, it is all right. Abby, it is all right? One word. Her father stepped aside. Samuel did not come in. He stood on the porch, hat in his hands, the way Nathaniel had stood at the kitchen step 2 nights ago. The likeness made her stomach turn. Abby. Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed. That is your name. Abby, please. What did you come to say, Samuel? I heard about the loan. I imagine you did. Abby, I want you to know I had nothing to do with that. Granger did that on his own. He did not tell me. All right. Abby. I said all right, Samuel. That is not all I came to say. Then say the rest. I heard you spoke with Nathaniel Whitmore at the market yesterday. For 30 seconds, about salt. Abby. For 30 seconds, Samuel, about salt. He is not Abby, that man is not. He is not the kind of man. The kind of man what? He is not the kind of man for a woman like you. A small, very quiet thing inside her chest folded its hands and went still. Samuel. Yes, Abby. What kind of woman am I? Abby. What kind of woman, Samuel? Use your words. You are a lawyer. I did not mean. You meant. You meant exactly. You meant a small woman, a quiet woman, a poor woman, a useful woman, a woman who is a step behind everyone in this town. That is what you meant. Abby, that is not. Samuel, are you engaged to Eliza Granger? Abby, are you engaged to Eliza Granger? Yes. Since April. Since April. And you let me stand at that wall on Friday night and look at you like a fool. I did not know you were— Yes, you did. Samuel, you knew exactly. You have known for 4 years. You came to this kitchen and you ate my father's bread, and you let me believe there was something between us because it was useful to you. Abby, you are not the kind of man for a woman like me, Samuel. That is the truth of this porch tonight. Abby? Good night, Mr. Reed. Abby, please. Good night, Mr. Reed. She closed the door. She put her back against it. Her father was standing at the end of the hall. Abby. Father. Are you all right? I do not know. Abby. Yes. That was very well done. Was it? Yes. It did not feel well done. It rarely does, Abby. She stood with her back to the door for a long time. Her father walked down the hall, kissed the top of her head, and went upstairs without another word. She stood there. She thought about Nathaniel Whitmore on a horse in the summer afternoon saying, "I am standing where the wolves can see I am watching." She thought about Samuel Reed on the porch saying, "Not the kind of man for a woman like you." She thought about Mrs. Vale in the churchyard saying, "Take care your tongue does not use you." She thought about her father at the kitchen table saying, "If he comes again, bring him in through the front door." And she thought for the first time in 24 years that she was not standing at a wall counting candles. She was standing in the middle of her own life, and the room had gotten very quiet, and every soul in it was waiting to see what Abigail Hartwell would do next. She blew out the lamp in the front hall. She climbed the stairs in the dark. She lay down on her bed in her good dress, the same one she had worn for 3 nights running now, and she pulled her mother's prayer book out from under the mattress and held it against her chest with both hands. The folded note was still inside it. 8 reckless words. She did not throw them away. She pressed the prayer book closer and she closed her eyes, and somewhere in the warm Virginia night, a man she barely knew was riding home to a house with 3,000 acres around it and no wife in it. And Abigail Hartwell understood for the first time in her life that she had been heard. The lawyer from Richmond arrived on Tuesday morning. His name was Henry Brant. He was a small, thin, sharp-eyed man of about 50, with ink stains on 3 fingers and a leather satchel that looked as if it had been dropped from a horse more than once. He came to the front door, took off his hat, and said his business in the open hallway, loud enough that Mrs. Vale's nephew riding past on a slow mule could not have failed to hear it. "Mr. Hartwell, I have come at the request of Mr. Whitmore to read the loan papers held against this property by Mr. Thomas Granger of this town." Elias Hartwell looked at the small, thin man for a long moment. "Mr. Brant." "Sir." "You are speaking very loudly." "I am, sir." "On purpose." "On purpose, sir." "Why?" "Because in my experience, sir, the men who call loans on schoolmasters do not like sunlight, and I am a man who carries a great deal of sunlight in my pockets." Her father almost smiled. "Come in, Mr. Brant." "Thank you, sir." By noon, Henry Brant was at the kitchen table with the loan papers spread out in 3 neat rows and a magnifying glass in one hand. By 2 o'clock he was making small marks in the margins of the 3rd row with a red pencil. By 4 o'clock he had drunk 3 cups of weak coffee and asked Abigail twice for more bread and not eaten any of it. At 4:30 he set down the pencil. "Mr. Hartwell." "Mr. Brant." "This loan is unenforceable." A silence in the kitchen so complete that Abigail could hear the clock ticking in the parlor. "Say that again, Mr. Brant." "This loan is unenforceable, sir." "You are certain?" "I am as certain, sir, as a man can be of a piece of paper when the man who wrote it has signed his name in the wrong color of ink." "What does that mean?" "It means, sir, that the original note was drawn in 1804 at 6%. In 1809, Mr. Granger had your late wife's signature added as a co-borrower. Although she was already deceased at the time the second signature was added. In 1813, the rate was changed in pencil and then traced over in pen. In 1816, this June Mr. Granger added a clause permitting full call of the principal upon 30 days' notice. A clause which appears nowhere in the original document and which carries no countersignature. Her father had gone very pale. My wife signed nothing. No, sir, she did not. She was dead. She was dead, sir, since the spring of 1808. Then how? Mr. Granger forged your wife's signature, sir, on a document dated 9 months after her funeral. That is a crime, Mr. Brandt. That is several crimes, Mr. Hartwell, stacked one on top of the other like cordwood. Abigail sat down in the chair beside her father because her knees would not hold. Mr. Brandt. Oh, yes, Miss Hartwell. What does this mean for our house? It means, ma'am, that you do not owe Mr. Granger $614. It means you owe him perhaps $210 at the original rate on the original terms with no call clause and no co-borrower. It means that if Mr. Granger attempts to take this house in 30 days, I will personally ride back to Richmond and return with 2 writs and a state senator who has owed me a favor since 1811. Her father put his face in his hands. He did not cry. Elias Hartwell was not a man who cried in front of strangers, but his shoulders moved once hard like a man who had been holding his breath for 12 years and had finally remembered how to let it out. Mr. Brandt. Yes, sir. How much do I owe you? Nothing, Mr. Hartwell. Mr. Brandt. Nothing, sir. I told Mr. Whitmore at 9:30 on Sunday evening that I would do this for the cost of a meal and a bed, and Mr. Whitmore told me at 9:45 that if I charged you a single penny, he would consider our debt unpaid and add interest. I am here on a debt of my own, sir, not yours. What debt? That is between Mr. Whitmore and me, sir. Mr. Brandt. Sir. Tell me anyway. The lawyer looked at him a long moment. Mr. Hartwell, in the autumn of 1812, my younger brother was a private in a militia company outside Norfolk. He was 19 years old. He took a ball through the leg, and he would have died on the field, except that an officer he did not know carried him a quarter-mile under fire to a surgeon, and the surgeon kept him alive long enough to lose only the leg and not the rest of him. My brother is 43 years old today and has 6 children. The officer was Mr. Whitmore. I have been waiting 14 years for a way to pay that debt back, sir. Today I paid it back. Her father did not speak for a long moment. Mr. Brandt. Yes, sir. You are welcome at this table any time you are in Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Hartwell. The lawyer stayed 2 more days. He drew up the writ. He drew up the demand letter. He drew up the affidavit her father would sign. He left on Friday morning with 3 of her mother's biscuits wrapped in a clean cloth and the promise that he would be back within the month if Granger raised his voice. By Friday afternoon, the town knew. Not all of it. Not the forgery. Henry Brandt had been careful. But the town knew that a Richmond lawyer had been at the Hartwell kitchen table for 3 days. And the town knew that the Richmond lawyer had been seen riding out of the Whitmore stable on a borrowed horse. And the town knew that Thomas Granger had been seen pacing the porch of his bank twice on Thursday, with his hat in his hand. By Friday evening, the gossip had a new shape. It was no longer that Abigail Hartwell had embarrassed herself at an assembly. It was that Abigail Hartwell had a protector. Mrs. Prudence Vale arrived at the Hartwell kitchen door at 6 o'clock with a covered basket and an expression like a cat who has just walked into a dairy. Mrs. Vale. Miss Hartwell, I have brought you peaches. Thank you. From my own tree. That is very kind of you. I had to come. Did you? I had to come, Miss Hartwell, because I have heard the most disturbing thing today, and I could not, in good conscience, let the day end without warning you. And what is the disturbing thing, Mrs. Vale? I have heard that Mr. Whitmore sent a lawyer to this house. You have heard correctly. A small ripple across Mrs. Vale's face. You do not deny it. I have nothing to deny, Mrs. Vale. The lawyer came. He read the papers. He went home. There was no impropriety. My father was at the table the entire time. The lawyer slept in the schoolhouse, not in this house. Miss Hartwell. Yes. A man like Mr. Whitmore does not send a lawyer for a young woman without expecting something in return. Mrs. Vale. Yes, dear. My father is 61 years old. He is not a young woman. That is not what It is exactly what you meant. Miss Hartwell, I am only trying to... Mrs. Vale, you are standing at my kitchen door with a basket of peaches and a mouth full of insinuation, and I will not stand here and pretend you are doing me a kindness. You have come to find out what I will say, so that you can repeat it before sundown to 4 other women. I am telling you what I will say. I will say that Mr. Whitmore did my father a courtesy. I will say that the courtesy cost him nothing he cannot afford, and us nothing we cannot accept. And I will say that the next person in this town who suggests anything else is going to find out what an angry woman looks like when she has run out of polite. A very long silence. Mrs. Vale set the basket of peaches on the kitchen step. Miss Hartwell. Mrs. Vale. You used to be a quiet girl. I used to be a frightened girl. And now? Now I am 24. Mrs. Vale and I have nothing left to be frightened of because the worst thing this town could do to me has already been threatened, and a man you do not like has stood between me and it. That man has not touched my hand. That man has buried 2. He has buried 2 wives, Mrs. Vale. Yes. He has also buried a son. He has also fought a war. He has also paid off the church organ in 1814 when no one would tell you he did. He has done a great many things in this town that have not been spoken of in your prayer circle because he does not give you the satisfaction of speaking of them. Take your peaches, Mrs. Vale. I will not eat them. Mrs. Vale picked up the basket. Miss Hartwell. Yes. You have made an enemy tonight. I have had enemies all my life, Mrs. Vale. The only difference is that tonight I know the names of some of them. Mrs. Vale walked away down the path. Clara was at the door before the gate had finished swinging. Abby? I know. Abby. Clara, I know. She is going to ruin you. She has been trying to ruin me for 6 years. She has only just gotten my attention. Abby. What? Abby, I have to tell you something. What is it? Abby, sit down. Clara. Sit down, please. Abigail sat down. Clara, what? Abby. Mrs. Vale knows about the note. The room tilted. What? She does not know what was in it. She does not know who it was for. She knows that you wrote a note on Friday night at the assembly, and she knows that Nathaniel Whitmore opened it. Clara, how? The servant boy. What? The servant boy. The one you gave the note to. He is Mrs. Vale's nephew's son, Abby. I did not know on Friday. I found out an hour ago. He told his mother on Sunday because he thought it was a romantic thing, and his mother told her sister, and her sister told Mrs. Vale at the prayer circle this afternoon. Oh God. Abby. How long have I had? Until tomorrow morning, Abby. She will speak at church tomorrow. She will not say it from the pulpit. She does not have to. She will say it on the steps. Clara. I am here. Clara, my father. I know. My father does not deserve this. I know, Abby. I have to go to her. You cannot go to her, Abby. Whatever you say to her will be twisted by morning. She is not a woman you can negotiate with. Then what do I do? Abby, I do not know. Clara, what do I do? Abby, you go to him. To whom? To Whitmore. Clara, I cannot. You can. Clara, I cannot ride to that man's house and ask him to save me from gossip. That is the kind of woman I will not become. Then do not ask him to save you. Tell him what is coming and let him decide. Clara. Abby. He has earned the right to know. He is in this with you whether you wanted him to be or not. She closed her eyes. Clara. Yes. I am afraid. Of him. No. Of myself. Of what I will say if I stand in front of him and have nothing left to lose. Abby. What? Maybe it is time to say it. She rode out at dawn. She did not take her father's old mare. She walked. She walked the 4 miles up the river road in her second-best dress, and she did not look at any rider who passed her. She arrived at the Whitmore gate at 7:30 in the morning. The gatekeeper knew her face. Miss Hartwell. I need to see Mr. Whitmore. Ma'am, he is at breakfast. Then I will wait at the gate until he is finished. Miss Hartwell, I cannot leave a lady standing at a gate. You can. I have asked you to. Please send word. The gatekeeper sent word. Nathaniel Whitmore came down the lane on foot in his shirt sleeves, with his coat over one arm. He had not finished shaving. There was a small line of soap still along his jaw on the side without the scar. Miss Hartwell? Mr. Whitmore. What has happened? Mrs. Vale knows about the note. He stopped walking. How? The servant boy at the assembly. Her nephew's son. He told his mother on Sunday. The chain reached Mrs. Vale yesterday at the prayer circle. She will speak about it on the church steps this morning. What does she know? She knows I wrote a note. She knows you read it. She does not know the words. She does not know it was meant for Samuel. All right. Mr. Whitmore? Yes, ma'am. I did not come here to ask you to do anything. I know. I came here because Clara said you had earned the right to know. Clara is a good friend, Miss Hartwell. Yes. He looked at her a long moment. Miss Hartwell. Yes. How long have we got? An hour and a half until the second bell. All right. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. What are you going to do? I am going to put on a coat, Miss Hartwell. I am going to walk into that churchyard at the second bell, and I am going to stand beside you on the steps. Mr. Whitmore. Yes. That will tell the whole town that I am yours. It will tell the whole town that you are not Mrs. Vale's. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. That is not the same thing. No, ma'am, it is not. You cannot do this for me. I am not doing it for you. Then for whom? For me, Miss Hartwell. I have stood by while Prudence Vale has buried 6 women in this town under whispers in the last 15 years. I am tired of standing by. You are giving me the first reason in 15 years to step into that churchyard and say no more. Mr. Whitmore. Yes. If you do this, the gossip will not be that I wrote a note. The gossip will be that I am your woman. Are you my woman, Miss Hartwell? I am no man's woman, Mr. Whitmore. All right, then. That is what we will say. The town will not believe it. The town does not have to believe it. The town has to be told it. There is a difference. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. Why are you doing this? Because, ma'am, you wrote 8 reckless words on a folded paper at an assembly 6 nights ago, and I have not slept a full night since, and I have decided that if I am not going to sleep, I might as well be useful. She did not have an answer for that either. The second bell rang at 9. The church was full. Every pew, every soul in the county who had heard a whisper had come, because in a town of 1,500 people, a whisper that travels fast enough is its own invitation. Abigail came up the road on foot in her good blue dress, with her father on her arm. Clara walked 3 paces behind. They did not speak. They did not look at the small knots of people gathered on the churchyard grass. Mrs. Prudence Vale was on the church steps. She had a pamphlet in her hand. The pamphlet was a prop. Mrs. Vale did not need a pamphlet. She had 4 other women around her, and her voice was already raised to the pitch of a woman about to deliver a sermon she had not been asked for. And I say to you, sisters, that a woman who writes notes to a man at an evening assembly is a woman who— She did not finish the sentence, because Nathaniel Whitmore came up the path from the other side. He was in a dark coat. His hat was in his hand. He walked through the churchyard the way a man walks through a field he owns, and the crowd parted in front of him without anyone deciding to part. He stopped at the bottom of the church steps. Abigail stopped at the bottom of the church steps. They had not planned this. They had not arranged the timing. But they arrived at the same step at the same moment, and the whole churchyard saw it, and the whole churchyard understood. Mrs. Vale. Mr. Whitmore. You have something to say this morning. I have a great deal to say, Mr. Whitmore. Then say it. A beat. Mrs. Vale's hand tightened on the pamphlet. Mr. Whitmore. There has been a rumor in this town. Yes. A rumor that touches on the reputation of a young woman of this congregation. Yes. I think it is in the interest of this town to have the matter spoken of openly. I agree with you, Mrs. Vale, A small sound went through the crowd. You agree. I agree. Speak openly. Mrs. Vale faltered. She had not expected agreement. Mrs. Vale had built her entire career on the silence of the people she was about to wound. A silent woman cannot defend herself. A silent man cannot contradict. But Nathaniel Whitmore had told her to speak. Mr. Whitmore, I have been told that on Friday night last at the Whitmore Summer Assembly, Miss Abigail Hartwell wrote a note and arranged for it to be delivered to a gentleman of this town. That is correct. The crowd gasped. You confirm it? I confirm it. And the gentleman to whom the note was delivered was me, Mrs. Vale. The churchyard went silent. You. Me. Abigail's hand closed on her father's arm so hard her knuckles ached. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. That is a serious admission. Mrs. Vale, I am a serious man. What did the note say? That Mrs. Vale is between Miss Hartwell the paper and me, and I will tell you why I will not say it on this step. He turned. He turned to the whole churchyard. He raised his voice for the first time, and it was the voice of a man who had given orders to militia companies under fire, and it carried. The note was sent to me by mistake. The boy who carried it took it to the wrong man. Miss Hartwell has done nothing improper. She has written a private word, and a careless boy has put that word into the wrong hand, and I have returned it to her without reading it twice. There is no scandal here. There is only a town that has gone hungry for one all summer. Another sound through the crowd, smaller, uncertain. Mrs. Vale found her tongue. Mr. Whitmore? A young woman who writes notes in a public room. Mrs. Vale. Yes. In this town last winter, a married deacon of this very church wrote 3 notes to a woman who was not his wife, and I did not see you on these steps. A different kind of silence. In this town 2 summers ago, a man whose name I will not say tonight took advantage of a tenant girl in his stable, and the girl was sent to her aunt in Williamsburg, and the man dined at your table the following Sunday. Mrs. Vale's face went the color of unbleached muslin. Mr. Whitmore, in this town, Mrs. Vale, in 15 years, I have watched you bury 6 women under your tongue, and not one of them did anything that a man in this congregation has not done worse. I am tired, Mrs. Vale, and so I am telling you in front of every soul in this churchyard that Miss Abigail Hartwell wrote a private word that came to me by accident, and the word was the most honest word spoken at that assembly, and if any soul in this churchyard thinks otherwise, they may take it up with me directly. He paused. I will be on my front porch this evening from 6 o'clock onward. The silence was so thick a man could have walked across it. And then Abigail Hartwell let go of her father's arm. She took 1 step forward, then another. She climbed 3 steps until she was standing beside Nathaniel Whitmore on the church steps in her good blue dress with the morning sun on her face and her hands shaking and her voice almost not her own. Mrs. Vale. Miss Hartwell. Mr. Whitmore is too kind to you. A movement through the crowd. What did you say, child? I said Mr. Whitmore is too kind to you, Mrs. Vale. He has told you the note was a mistake. That is not the whole truth. The whole truth is that I wrote a note at the assembly, and I gave it to a servant boy, and I asked that boy to deliver it to a man in that room. The boy delivered it to the wrong man. The man who received it did not read it twice. He did not show it to a soul. He returned it to me at my own kitchen door at midnight without setting 1 foot inside my father's house, and he left, and that is every word of what passed between us until this morning. The crowd had gone so still that Abigail could hear her own heart in her ears. Mrs. Vale. Yes. I am 24 years old. Yes. I have stood in the back of every room in this town since I was 19, and I have been a polite, useful, quiet thing, and not one of you in this churchyard has spoken my name with any kindness in 5 years, including you, Mrs. Vale. Miss Hartwell. I wrote a note at an assembly 6 nights ago because I was tired of being polite. The note was foolish. It was reckless. I will not lie to you and say it was not, but it was mine. It was the first thing I have done in 6 years that was mine. And I will not stand on this step and hear you or any one of you call it shameful, when not one of you has spoken to me at a supper since my mother died." Her father at the bottom of the steps raised one hand to his face. "I do not apologize for the note, Mrs. Vale. I apologize that the boy carried it to the wrong man. I do not apologize for writing it. I do not apologize for wanting one honest word in a town that has not given me one in 6 years. And I do not apologize for standing on this step beside Mr. Whitmore, who has been more honest with me in 3 days than every soul in this churchyard has been in 3 decades." A long, shaking silence. Mrs. Prudence Vale opened her mouth. She closed it. Mrs. Prudence Vale had not been answered in 22 years, and she had no script for it. The pamphlet in her hand drooped. She turned. She walked down the steps. She walked through the parted crowd, and she did not look at any soul, and she walked all the way to the road and turned toward home, and she did not enter the church. Abigail Hartwell stood on the church steps for one more second. She looked at Nathaniel Whitmore. He looked at her. He did not smile. He gave her one small nod. It was the same nod he had given her across the assembly room 6 nights ago. The nod of a man who had received a piece of information and intended to do something about it. The pastor came out of the church door. He looked at the steps. He looked at the crowd. He cleared his throat. "Friends, the bell has rung. Let us go in." The congregation moved, slowly, like a herd of animals who had just watched something they did not understand and were not yet sure whether to run from it or follow it. Abigail Hartwell walked into church on her father's arm. Nathaniel Whitmore walked in 3 pews behind them. He sat where he always sat. He did not look at her once during the service, but every soul in the church looked at both of them. And when the service ended and the congregation moved out into the churchyard again, not one woman stopped Abigail to whisper at her, and not one man crossed the path to insult her father. And Mrs. Prudence Vale's 4 lieutenants walked home in 4 different directions without speaking to each other. At the gate, Clara took her hand. "Abby." "Yes." "What just happened?" "I do not know, Clara." "Abby, I have never seen anything like that in my life." "Neither have I." "You stood on that step." "I stood on that step." "You stood on that step and you spoke." "I spoke." "Abby." "Yes." "Whatever just happened, you cannot undo it." "No." "And I do not think you want to." "No, Clara. I do not think I want to." Her father came down the steps. He did not say anything. He kissed the top of her head the way he had kissed it on the night Samuel Reed left their porch. Behind him at the church door, Nathaniel Whitmore was standing with his hat in his hand, and the morning sun on the scar along his jaw, and he was looking across the churchyard at Abigail Hartwell, as if she were the only soul in it. She held his eyes. She did not look away. And somewhere in the warm, bright Virginia morning, Thomas Granger, who had not come to church, was sitting in his bank office with a forged signature on a piece of paper and a Richmond writ on his desk, and the slow dawning understanding that he had picked the wrong family to crush this summer. By Tuesday, the writ from Richmond was on Thomas Granger's desk, and by Wednesday morning, Thomas Granger was on the front porch of the Hartwell house in his second-best coat, with sweat on his collar and his hat in both hands. "Mr. Hartwell?" "Mr. Granger, I came to speak with you." "You can speak from the porch." "Sir, I would prefer—" "Mr. Granger, you forged my dead wife's signature on a piece of paper in 1809. You will speak from the porch." A long silence. "Mr. Hartwell, I am here to make an offer." "I am listening." "I will withdraw the call on the loan." "You have no choice. Mr. Brandt's writ is signed. I will withdraw it publicly. I will write a letter to the Richmond paper. I will say that the matter was a clerk's error. It was not a clerk's error. Mr. Hartwell." "Mr. Granger, my wife has been dead 8 years. There is no clerk in Virginia with a signature like that." "Sir, I am asking you. You are asking me to lie for you. I am asking you to spare my family. Your family did not spare mine. My daughter is innocent in this. Your daughter, Mr. Granger, is engaged to a young lawyer who knew you called this loan to break a girl. She is not innocent. She is only quiet. Granger's hand tightened on his hat. Mr. Hartwell, what do you want? I want my $210 erased. Done. I want a written statement signed before a magistrate saying that the loan was forged. A pause. Mr. Hartwell, that will ruin me. Yes. I will lose the bank. Yes. My daughter will marry a man who knew. That is between her and her conscience, Mr. Granger. It is not between her and me. Sir, Mr. Granger, I have been a quiet man for 61 years. I have buried my wife. I have lost my health. I have nearly lost my house. My daughter has stood at walls in this town since she was 19, and not one of you has thought she was worth a kind word until she made you afraid of her on Sunday morning. I am done being a quiet man. The statement Mr. Granger before a magistrate signed and witnessed by Friday noon, or my Richmond lawyer files Monday morning. Sir, Friday. Mr. Granger, good morning. Granger left. Abigail came out from the hallway where she had been listening with her hand pressed flat against her mouth. Father? Abby. Father, you. I know. You stood on him. I stood on him. I have not heard you raise your voice in 3 years. I had not had a reason in 3 years. Father. Yes. What changed? You did, Abby. She did not have an answer. By Friday at noon, the signed statement was on Mr. Brandt's desk in Richmond. By Saturday, the gossip in town had inverted itself entirely. Thomas Granger had forged a dead woman's name. Thomas Granger was a thief. Thomas Granger had tried to take a schoolmaster's house on a forged note while his daughter married the lawyer who would have argued the case. Eliza Granger went home to her aunt in Williamsburg by Sunday afternoon. Samuel Reed was seen at the Eagle Tavern on Monday night, drunk for the first time in his life, and the men at the next table moved over because the smell of his disgrace was on him already. By Wednesday, Samuel Reed was at the Hartwell front door. Abigail answered. Mr. Reed? Abby? Mr. Reed. Abby, please. What do you want, Samuel? Eliza has gone. I have heard. Abby, I made a terrible mistake. Yes. I let Granger. Yes. I should have come to you. Yes. Abby, it is not too late. Samuel. Abby, listen to me. The engagement is broken. Granger is finished. I can stand in this town again if you what, Samuel? If I marry well. She looked at him for a very long second. Samuel. Yes. Get off my porch. Abby. Get off my porch. Samuel Reed. Get off my porch and do not come up the path again. You did not come here because you love me. You came here because Eliza Granger is not useful to you anymore, and you remembered that I was once. Get off my porch. Abby, that is not, get off my porch. He got off her porch. She closed the door, and she put her forehead against the wood, and she laughed once hard, and surprised the way a woman laughs when she finds out she is not the same person she was 6 weeks ago. Clara was at the kitchen door at 4 o'clock. Abby. Clara. Tell me he came. He came. Tell me you sent him away. I sent him away. Abby. Yes. I think I love you. I think I love you too, Clara. That evening, Abigail walked alone to the Whitmore property. She did not go to the front gate. She walked the river road and came up the back path to the orchard where Nathaniel kept his summer apples because she did not want to be announced. And she did not want a gatekeeper to see her, and she did not want to give the town one more thing to chew on. She found him at the edge of the orchard with one of his hands. Mr. Whitmore? He turned. He did not look surprised. Miss Hartwell, may I speak with you? You may. Hawkins, leave us. The hand left. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. I came to thank you. You do not owe me thanks. I came to thank you anyway. All right. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. You have done a great deal for my family in 3 weeks. I have done very little. You have done a great deal. Miss Hartwell. Yes. I did not do any of it for thanks. I know. Then do not give me any. All right. A small silence. The summer evening sounds of an orchard, but she did not describe them to herself because there was a man in front of her and she could not see anything else. Miss Hartwell. Yes. Why did you come tonight? Because I wanted to see you in a place where no one was watching. Ma'am. I know how that sounds, Mr. Whitmore. Do you? I know exactly how that sounds. I am 24 years old, and I have not slept a full night in 6 weeks, and I have stood beside you on church steps, and I have watched my father stand on his own front porch for the first time in 3 years. And I have sent Samuel Reed off that same porch this morning, and I am tired of pretending that what is happening in this orchard is anything other than what it is. He was very still. Miss Hartwell. Yes. What is it? Mr. Whitmore. Yes? You came to my kitchen door at midnight on the 18th of July. I did. You said the note was the first honest thing spoken in that room all evening. I did. I have thought about that sentence every day for 6 weeks. Ma'am. Mr. Whitmore, you sent a lawyer for my father. You stood beside me on a church step. You did not ask me for one thing in return. You told me you were standing where the wolves could see you watching. I am asking you tonight what it is you want from me, because I have been a polite, useful, quiet woman for too long, and I will not be polite about this. Miss Hartwell. Yes. Are you asking what my intentions are? I am asking what you want, Mr. Whitmore. Your intentions are a smaller thing. He almost smiled. All right, Miss Hartwell. I will tell you. Tell me. I am 38 years old. I have buried 2 wives and a son. I have not asked any woman for a single thing since 1809. 6 weeks ago, a young woman I had seen across rooms for 4 years sent a folded paper to a servant boy at my own assembly, and the boy brought it to the wrong man, and the wrong man was me. I read those 8 words, ma'am, and I went home, and I sat in my study, and I did not light a lamp, and I sat in the dark for an hour. Why? Because I had not been spoken to honestly in 7 years, Miss Hartwell, and a woman I had never spoken 3 sentences to had written me by accident the first sentence anyone had said to me without weighing it, and it shook me, ma'am, in a way I did not think I could be shaken anymore. Mr. Whitmore. That is what I want, Miss Hartwell. I want to be spoken to that way for the rest of my life. I do not want a polite woman. I do not want a useful woman. I have had a polite woman and I buried her in 1808, and I have had a useful woman and I buried her in 1810, and I will not marry another one. I want a woman who would write a reckless line in a folded paper at 24 because she could not be silent one more night. I want her at my table. I want her in my house. I want her name on my fences. That is what I want, Miss Hartwell. And I have not said it before tonight because you did not ask, and a man does not say a thing like that to a woman who has not asked. Mr. Whitmore. Ma'am, that is a proposal. It is. You have not gotten on a knee. I have not, ma'am. I will if you ask me to, but I would rather speak to you on the same level. I have buried 2 wives on my knees. I would rather not begin a 3rd marriage that way. Mr. Whitmore? Yes. I am not going to answer you tonight. I did not expect you to. I am not going to answer you tomorrow. All right. I am going to answer you when I have answered myself, Mr. Whitmore, because I have been a thing other people decided about for 24 years, and the next decision in my life is going to be mine. Miss Hartwell. Yes. That is the answer I was hoping you would give. Why? Because I do not want a wife who said yes because she was tired. I want a wife who said yes because she chose. Mr. Whitmore. Yes. Will you wait? As long as you need. Mr. Whitmore. Ma'am, you will wait. As long as you need. You may be waiting a long time. I have been waiting 7 years, Miss Hartwell. A few more months will not bury me. She walked home in the dark. She did not run. She did not cry. She walked the river road home with her hands in her pockets and her father's old shawl on her shoulders, and she felt for the first time in her life like a woman who had not been chosen but had been asked. She walked into the kitchen. Her father was at the table. "Abby." "Father." "Where have you been?" "At the Whitmore orchard." He set down his cup. "Alone." "Alone, father." "Did he speak to you?" "He spoke to me." "What did he say?" "He asked me to marry him." A long silence. "And what did you say, daughter?" "I said I would answer when I had answered myself." He looked at her. He looked at her for a long, slow moment, and his eyes were wet. "Abby." "Yes, father." "Your mother once made a man wait 14 months. "Did she?" "She did." "And what did the man do?" "He waited, Abby. The man waited, and he was the better for it. And so was she." "Father." "Yes." "Was the man you?" "Yes, daughter. The man was me." She sat down across from him. "Father?" "Yes." "What do I do?" "You do what your mother did. You wait until the answer is yours." "And if it takes 14 months?" "Then it takes 14 months. He is a grown man. He can stand it." "Father?" "Yes." "I think the answer is going to be yes." "I know it is, Abby." "How?" "Because you came home with your hands in your pockets, daughter. A woman who is going to say no does not put her hands in her pockets. She holds them at her sides like a soldier." "Father?" "Yes. I love you very much. I love you very much, Abby." In the weeks that followed, Abigail did not give Nathaniel an answer. She did not avoid him. They saw each other at church. They saw each other at market. They walked together once openly down the main street of the town, and not one soul whispered because the town had learned in 3 weeks not to whisper about Abigail Hartwell anymore. She used the time differently than the town expected. She did not spend it at fittings. She did not spend it choosing linens. She spent it at the schoolhouse her father owned, the one Granger had tried to take. She spent it scrubbing the floors and patching the roof, and writing to a teacher in Philadelphia she had read about in a pamphlet. She spent it riding to 3 farms outside the town to ask 3 poor women whether they would let their daughters come to school for free 3 mornings a week if she found the money. The third woman cried, "Miss Hartwell." "Yes, Mrs. Coleman. My Sarah is 9 years old and she cannot read her own name." "I know. I cannot pay you." "I am not asking for pay, Mrs. Coleman." "Why are you doing this?" "Because, Mrs. Coleman, I have stood at walls in this town for 6 years, and I have learned this summer that a woman who can read does not stand at walls. She stands in the middle of rooms." "Miss Hartwell." "Yes. I will send Sarah." "Thank you, Mrs. Coleman." By the end of August, the schoolhouse had 11 girls in it. By the middle of September, it had 16. By the first week of October, the teacher from Philadelphia had written back to say she would come for room board and $12 a month. The $12 a month came from Nathaniel Whitmore, and it came in an envelope that did not have his name on it, and Abigail did not pretend not to know where it came from, and she did not refuse it. She rode out to the Whitmore house in the first cold week of October. She did not go to the orchard this time. She went to the front gate. The gatekeeper bowed. "Miss Hartwell, he is in the study. Tell him I would like to see him in the parlor, please." "Yes, ma'am." She waited in the parlor. He came in. "Miss Hartwell." "Mr. Whitmore." "You have come to the front." "I have." A small thing flickered across his face. He controlled it. "Sit, ma'am." "I will stand, thank you." "All right." "Mr. Whitmore." "Yes. You asked me a question on the 8th of August." "I did." "It is the 2nd of October." "It is." "It has been 55 days. Has it?" "You have not asked me again." "No, ma'am." "Why?" "Because, Miss Hartwell, you told me you would answer when you had answered yourself. I have been waiting for you to answer yourself. It is not my work." "Mr. Whitmore." "Yes." "I have answered myself." "All right. Do you want to know what I have answered?" "Very much, Miss Hartwell. My answer is yes." He did not move for 1 second. "Miss Hartwell." "Yes." "Say it once more, please, So that I am sure. My answer is yes, Mr. Whitmore. I will marry you. He closed his eyes. He opened them. Miss Hartwell. Yes. On what terms? You are asking me my terms. I am ma'am. My terms are these. The schoolhouse remains mine. The girls remain mine. The teacher remains mine. The money you send to that schoolhouse comes from us, but the schoolhouse is not yours. It is mine, and after me, it is the girls. Agreed. My father lives in his house until the day he chooses otherwise. He does not move into yours unless he asks to. Agreed. I will not be a quiet wife, Mr. Whitmore. If I disagree with you at your own table, I will say so at your own table. Agreed. I will not stop writing reckless lines. I would ask you not to stop. Mr. Whitmore. Miss Hartwell. You have not asked for my terms. No, ma'am. Why? Because, Miss Hartwell, I asked you in August to be my wife, and I meant it. The terms are yours to set. A man who asks a woman to be his wife and then sets terms on her is not a husband. He is a buyer. Mr. Whitmore. Yes. You are not making this easy. Ma'am. You are not making it easy to remain calm. Then do not remain calm, Miss Hartwell. She crossed the parlor in 3 steps. She stopped 1 pace from him. She put her hand on the lapel of his coat. She did not touch his face. She did not need to. Nathaniel. Abigail. That is the first time you have used my name. That is the first time you have given it to me. Nathaniel. Yes. I am not going to be the kind of wife who is grateful. Good. I am going to be the kind of wife who is yours because I chose. That is the only kind I would have, Abigail. She let her hand fall. When? Whenever you like. December. December. At my father's house, not yours. The first wedding in my life will not be in a man's house. December at your father's house, Abigail. It will be small. It will be small. My father will give me away. Of course. Clara will stand with me. Of course. And Nathaniel. Yes. I want the note. The note. The 8 words. I want it on the wedding day. In your hand. So I may put it in mine. So I may keep it where I can see it for the rest of my life. Abigail. Yes. I will tell you something about that note now. Before December. Tell me. I have not been able to throw it away. I know. I have kept it in the top drawer of my study desk since the 18th of July. I know, Nathaniel. How do you know? Because, Mr. Whitmore, a man does not stand outside a woman's kitchen at midnight to give her back a piece of paper if he is going to throw the paper away when he gets home. He laughed. It was the first laugh she had heard from him. It was a small, low, tired sound, and she felt it in her chest, the way a woman feels a door opening in a house she has lived in all her life and never noticed before. Abigail. Yes. On the 18th of December, you will have the note. Thank you, Nathaniel. Abigail. Yes. Thank you for the 8 words. You are welcome, Nathaniel. She walked home. She walked home in the cold October afternoon, with her hands in her pockets, and she did not run, and she did not cry, and she walked into her father's kitchen, and her father was at the table with a cup of weak coffee, and she stood in the doorway, in her old shawl, with her cheeks pink from the cold air. Abby. Father. You went to the front. I went to the front. And? And the answer was yes. He set down his cup. He stood up. He crossed the kitchen. He put both hands on her shoulders. Abby. Yes, Father. You have done a great thing this autumn. What thing? You have become yourself daughter. And then you have chosen. That is the great thing. That is the only great thing a person ever does. Father? Yes. Will you walk me down the aisle in December? I have been walking you down some kind of aisle for 24 years, Abby. I will not stop in December. Father. Yes. I love you very much. I love you very much, Abigail. She did not cry until she was alone in her bedroom. She did not cry for sadness. She cried because for the first time in her life, the room that her life was being lived in had her name on the door. The wedding was on the 18th of December, exactly 5 months to the day from the night Abigail Hartwell had pressed a folded note into a servant boy's hand and watched her old life walk away from her on a stranger's coat. It was a small wedding. There were 19 people in her father's parlor. The pastor came. Clara stood at her right shoulder in a green dress she had been keeping for 2 years, for a wedding she had not been sure she was going to attend. Her father walked her the 8 steps from the kitchen door to the parlor hearth, and his hand on her arm was steady for the first time in 12 years. Nathaniel Whitmore stood in front of the hearth in a dark coat. He had not slept the night before. Abigail could see it in his eyes. She did not mind. She did not wear white. She wore her mother's blue, the same dress she had worn to the assembly in July, the same dress she had worn on the church steps in August. She had asked Clara to take it in once and let it out twice, and Clara had not asked why, and Abigail had not said. The pastor opened the book. "Friends, we are gathered." Nathaniel took something from his pocket. "Pastor, forgive me. One moment." "Mr. Whitmore." "One moment, sir." He turned to Abigail. He did not get on a knee. He stood at her level the way he had said he would, and he held out a folded piece of paper between 2 fingers. "Abigail." "Nathaniel." As promised. She took it. Her hand did not shake. She unfolded it, and there were her 8 words in her own hand on the same paper she had pressed into a boy's palm at 24 years old on the worst and best night of her life. "Meet me where no one dares to look." She folded it again. She slipped it into the small inside pocket Clara had sewn into the bodice of her mother's dress that morning, the pocket Abigail had asked for and not explained. "Nathaniel." "Yes." "This stays with me." "It is yours." "It has always been mine." "Yes?" "Pastor?" "Miss Hartwell, you may begin." She married Nathaniel Whitmore in her father's parlor on the 18th of December in the year 1816, and when the pastor said, "I now pronounce you her father," wept openly for the first time since her mother's funeral, and Clara wept, and Mrs. Coleman from the schoolhouse wept, and the only 2 people in the room who did not weep were the bride and the groom, because they had done their weeping in private already, and what they were doing now was not for tears. That winter was the longest winter of Abigail's life and the fastest. She moved into the Whitmore house on the 20th of December. She did not move into the bedroom that had belonged to either of his other wives. She had asked that first week for a different room, a smaller one at the back of the house facing the orchard, and Nathaniel had said of course, and 3 carpenters from his estate had finished the room in 4 days. She did not pretend his wives had not existed. She did not move their portraits down from the upstairs hall. She stood in front of the older one once, in early January, with a cup of tea in her hand, and she spoke to it. "Mrs. Whitmore." The portrait did not answer. Portraits did not answer. But Abigail spoke to it anyway, because she had learned that summer that speaking out loud to silent things was sometimes the only way to make a house hold a person properly. "Mrs. Whitmore, I am not here to take what was yours. I am here because the man you loved did not stop being a man when you died. I will be kind to him. I will not be quiet to him. I think that is what you would have wanted, but I do not know because we never met. I am Abigail. I will not move you off this wall. Good morning." She finished her tea. She went downstairs. Nathaniel was at the breakfast table. "Abigail." "Nathaniel." "You were upstairs a long time. I was speaking to your first wife." He set down his coffee. "And what did she say?" "Nothing, Nathaniel. She is a portrait." "Ah. But I told her I would not be quiet to you, and I told her I would not move her off the wall, and I think she would have approved of both if she could approve of anything." "Abigail." "Yes. She would have approved of you. You cannot know that." "I can. She used to tell me I needed a woman who would not be quiet. I did not listen the second time." "Nathaniel." "Yes. That is the most honest thing you have said to me since the orchard." "I am working at it, Abigail. Keep working at it. The first quarrel came in February. They argued over the schoolhouse. Nathaniel had wanted to put a stove in. Abigail had wanted the money to go to a second teacher. They argued for an hour at the kitchen table, and Nathaniel raised his voice once, and Abigail raised hers twice. And at the end of the hour she said, "We are buying the stove, and we are hiring the teacher, and you are going to find the money for both because you have it, and you know you have it, and you are only quarreling with me because you have not quarreled with anyone in 3 years, and you have forgotten how it feels." He was silent a long second. Abigail. Yes. You are right. I know I am right. That is not how a wife is supposed to say I am right. Then I am the wrong kind of wife, Nathaniel, and you knew that in August. He laughed. It was the second time. Abigail. Yes. Buy the stove. Hire the teacher. I will find the money. Thank you, Nathaniel. Abigail. Yes. Do not stop. I had no intention of stopping. In March, Thomas Granger went to court. The forgery charge stood. He was fined $800 and lost the bank charter. He left the county in May, and his daughter Eliza did not return from her aunt's, and Samuel Reed left the practice of law in June and went west to Tennessee with a new name. The town did not speak his name again, and Abigail did not think it once. By summer, the schoolhouse had 31 girls in it. By the autumn of 1817, it had 42. By the winter of 1818, the second teacher had become 2 teachers, and the schoolhouse had been added on to twice. And Mrs. Coleman's daughter Sarah, who had been 9 years old and unable to read her own name, stood at the front of the room one Friday morning and read a passage from the Declaration of Independence aloud to a room of girls and 3 of their mothers. And her own mother sat in the back row in a clean dress and put her hands flat on the bench in front of her and wept without making a sound. Abigail stood at the door of the schoolhouse that morning, and she watched and she thought, "This is what the 8 words were for. Not for me, for her." Mrs. Prudence Vale died in the spring of 1819 of a fever that took her in 9 days. She had not spoken to Abigail in 2.5 years. At the end, she sent a note. It was carried by her nephew, the same nephew whose son had carried Abigail's note to Nathaniel in 1816. The note was short. Mrs. Whitmore, I was wrong. I am sorry. P. Vale. Abigail read it twice. She did not show it to Nathaniel. She wrote back, Mrs. Vale, thank you. A. Whitmore. She sent the reply. Mrs. Vale died the next morning. Abigail went to the funeral. She stood in the back of the church. She did not weep. She did not smile. She stood there because the woman had been wrong and had said so, and Abigail had learned by then that the woman who refuses to acknowledge another woman's last honest sentence is not stronger than the woman who whispered it. Her father came to live at the Whitmore house in the autumn of 1819. He had not asked. Abigail had asked him. He had said no twice. The third time in October, after a hard cough that lasted 9 days, he said yes, and Nathaniel sent 2 of his men with a wagon, and Elias Hartwell came up the front drive of the Whitmore house with his books in 3 crates and his late wife's prayer book in his hand. He lived in a small room off the back hall near Abigail's morning room. He took breakfast with them. He took dinner with them. He sat by the fire in the parlor in the evenings and read his books, and on 3 nights a week he taught Latin to 4 boys from the town who could not afford a school of their own, and Nathaniel paid for their books and said nothing about it. In the summer of 1820, Abigail found out she was carrying a child. She did not tell Nathaniel for a week. She told her father first. Father, Abby, I have something to tell you. You are with child. How did you know? Because, Abby, I am 64 years old, and I have been a father long enough to know what a daughter looks like when she has not slept in a week and is not telling me why. Father, yes. I am afraid. Of what? Of his other wives. Abby, Father, he buried them both. He buried his son. I am afraid, Father. I am 24 no longer. I am 28, and I am afraid. He put his hand on her hand. Abby? Yes. You are not them. I know. And he is not the same man he was. I know. And the world is not the same world. There is a Philadelphia doctor he has already written to. There is a midwife in Norfolk he has already paid. He has been planning for a child since the day he married you, Abby, and he has not told you because he did not want to ask you for a child you had not chosen. She stared at her father. Father, how do you know that? Because Abby, your husband, is a man who does not say things, but he is a man who plans them. And I am a man who notices when a husband sends a letter to Philadelphia in March. Father, yes, I love him. I know you do, Abby. I have not said it to him yet. Then say it to him tonight. She told Nathaniel that evening at dinner. She told him about the child first. She told him she was carrying. He set down his fork. He stood up. He walked around the table. He pulled out the chair next to her, and he sat down in it, and he put his forehead against her shoulder, and he did not speak for a long minute. Nathaniel. Abigail. I love you. Abigail. I have not said it before. I know. I am saying it now. I have known Abigail. How? Because, Abigail, you have argued with me at my own table for 4 years, and a woman who does not love a man does not bother to argue with him. She laughed. She put her hand on his hair. Nathaniel. Yes. I am afraid. I know. I am afraid because of the other. I know Abigail. Tell me you are not. I am Abigail. I have been afraid since March. But I have been afraid before, and I have buried the things I was afraid for, and I have learned that being afraid did not save them. So I am going to be afraid, and I am going to stand beside you, and I am going to hope. That is all I have. I am sorry it is not more. Nathaniel. Yes. It is enough. The child was born in March of 1821. It was a girl. They named her Margaret after Abigail's mother. The midwife from Norfolk was there. The doctor from Philadelphia was there. Clara was there. Her father was there. The labor was hard, and it was long, and at one point the doctor went out to the hall and spoke quietly to Nathaniel for 90 seconds, and Nathaniel came back into the room and sat at the foot of the bed and did not leave until the child was born. Margaret cried hard. She was a good color. She had her mother's mouth and her father's eyes, and the midwife pronounced her sound, and the doctor pronounced Abigail's sound. And Nathaniel put both hands on the edge of the bed and bowed his head, and Abigail watched him, and she said, Nathaniel. Yes. You can lift your head, husband. Abigail. Yes. I am thanking the God I have not been on speaking terms with since 1810. Take your time. He took his time. He lifted his head. He came around the bed. He kissed her forehead, and then he kissed his daughter's forehead. And then he sat down on the floor next to the bed, because his knees would not hold him. Nathaniel. Yes. Welcome back. Where, Abigail? To the land of the living, Nathaniel. You have been a long time gone. He took her hand. He did not let go of it for an hour. By the end of 1822, Abigail Whitmore was no longer the schoolmaster's daughter who had stood at a wall and counted candles. The schoolhouse had become a school. The school had a name. It was called the Hartwell School, after her father at her insistence, because Nathaniel had put up half the money. But Elias Hartwell had given the school its first room and its first books, and Abigail would not have it any other way. The school had 74 girls in it by the spring of 1823. It had a stove in every room. It had a library of 312 books. It had 4 teachers. It had a small dormitory for 6 girls who came from farms more than 8 miles out. The girls who had started in 1816, the first 11 were grown women now. 2 of them taught at the school. One of them was reading law with a man in Richmond. One of them had married a farmer and was teaching her own 3 daughters to read at the kitchen table at night. Sarah Coleman, who had been 9 years old and unable to read her own name, was teaching the youngest class. Abigail still rode out to the schoolhouse 3 mornings a week, with Margaret on a small saddle in front of her by the time Margaret was 3. One evening in the autumn of 1824, Abigail came home to find Nathaniel in his study with a wooden box on the desk in front of him. The box was small and old, and she had not seen it before. "Nathaniel." "Abigail." "What is that? Come here." She came. He opened the box. Inside the box was a single folded piece of paper. Her 8 words, the same paper. She had given it to him for safekeeping in 1819, the year her father moved in, because she had decided that the 8 words did not belong in her bodice forever, and that they belonged in a box, and that Nathaniel was the keeper of boxes in their household. "Nathaniel." "Yes." "You have kept it." "I told you I would." "Why are you looking at it tonight?" "Because Abigail, our daughter, is 3 years old, and one day she's going to be 24. And one day she is going to write something reckless on a folded paper. And I want to remember when she does that the woman I am married to once wrote 8 reckless words at 24 years old, and they made the rest of my life." Nathaniel. "Yes." "Why did you keep it, truly, the first night?" Abigail. "Yes. Because it was the first time I heard you before anyone in that town allowed you to speak." She did not answer. She did not need to. She sat down in his lap, and she put her head on his shoulder, and the 8 words sat folded in the open box on the desk. And the candle burned low, and the house was quiet, and somewhere upstairs their daughter slept in a room that had been planned for her since the spring before she was conceived. Years later, after Elias Hartwell had died in his sleep at 73, after the school had grown to 120 girls, after Margaret Whitmore had grown into a tall, sharp-eyed woman who argued with her mother at the kitchen table with the same exact lift of the chin her mother had used on her grandfather. The old folded note was placed in the school library in a small glass case with a card in front of it. The card read, "This note was written by a woman in 1816. She was 24 years old. She sent it to the wrong man. The wrong man read it and did not look away. Every girl who reads this card today is here because that woman wrote 8 reckless words, and because she did not apologize for them. Do not apologize for the words you have not been allowed to say. Write them. Send them. Even to the wrong man. Especially to the wrong man. The wrong man may turn out to be the only honest one in the room." The card was unsigned. Every girl in the school knew who had written it. And in the spring of 1841, 25 years after the night, a servant boy walked across a candle-lit room with a folded paper in his hand. An old woman in a blue dress sat in the back of the schoolhouse where she had once scrubbed the floors, and she watched a class of 43 girls read aloud from a book that had not existed in any school for girls in the country when she was young. And she put her hand inside the small inside pocket of her dress, where the 8 words had once lived, and she remembered being 24 years old and frightened. She was not frightened anymore. She had not been frightened in a long time. The girls finished the passage. The teacher praised them. The bell rang. The girls filed out into the bright Virginia afternoon, and Abigail Whitmore stood up from the back bench, and she walked out of her own school, in her own town, in her own country, and she walked home. She had not been a polite woman. She had not been a quiet woman. She had not been a useful woman. She had been a woman who wrote 8 reckless words on a folded piece of paper at 24 years old, and she had refused to apologize for them, and the world had bent itself slowly and unwillingly around the shape of a woman who would not be sorry. That was the whole of it. That was the only thing it ever needed to be. Some women are made by the lives they are given. Some women are made by the lives they refuse. Abigail Whitmore was the second kind. And the 8 reckless words she wrote at 24 years old in the summer of 1816 did not destroy her, did not ruin her, did not bury her. They freed her, and through her, they freed every girl who ever stood in the back of a room counting candles and wondering whether her own honest sentence was worth the cost of saying it out loud. It was worth it. It was always worth it. And that is the end of the story.